Eastern philosophers, they all talk about ethics. Now, the Vedic vision of ethics, a lot of times when I talk about it, people ask me how and if it is different from the Western concept. So, the first thing that you must understand, and that is a very essential difference, and that is that essentially when in the Western context they talk about ethics, they talk about it as your personal responsibility, right? So that means you decide and you create your own set of standards which are going to guide your behavior, right? And the more evolved you are, you set what? Higher standards. Exactly, right? So that means it is entirely what you decide your behavior and then you stick by that. The Vedic vision of dharma is slightly different, and the vision is that there is, just like law of gravity, there is law of dharma. No, there is a law. That means it is something which is there. Okay, so that means it's not a social contract between two people where we say, hey, if we want to live peacefully, I decide not to hurt you, you decide not to hurt me, and we make that agreement. And in fact all our laws are based on what? That agreement. When you have a national law, what do? Somebody writes the constitution or somebody writes all the laws and says, this we now say, this is subject to what? 10 years of punishment. One given particular offense could be subject to 5 years of jail in one country. In the other country it could be 10 years. The other country, they'll chop your hands. That means we individuals, we decide what is considered to be a crime and what is the appropriate punishment for that. Okay, so if you look at the laws of the nations, there are two basic kind of, there is a common law system and there is what? There is common law and there is civil law. So common law and there is another system. So they follow,
religious law.
Exactly.
Universal.
No, it's not universal. So this whole law that we make is man-made. It's a social contract. We agree. Okay, so everybody, so for example in India we have Hindu law, and for civil law we have Hindu law and we have a Muslim law. So according to your religion, a different, same act, it will have a different result, right? So this is something, in this case ethics is something what? It's a social contract. So
you said that ethics can be two things. One is it's set by yourself, and second is it's a social contract. The two separate things, or are you talking about?
So I'm saying that the ethics can be talked about in different ways, right? So the first thing is like it's your personal responsibility. It has got nothing to do with your, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to follow everything legally. You see what I mean? You can be legally correct, but you can set the standards for your own conduct, which is what? Much higher than that legal obligation that you have. Right? So one is a social contract. The second thing is your own decision, your own standards that you set for yourself. Okay? But the third thing according to Veda is, it's not even like I set this standard and it is something which is inborn. Excellent. Right? So that means the human brain is born with, it's not like you decide. It's born with a certain understanding of what is right and what is wrong. Okay? So
we compare it to the laws of gravity.
So in that, exactly, in that context, the law of dharma is there, but if you were totally oblivious to those laws of dharma, then you cannot be held responsible. But if there are laws of dharma and you are given in your buddhi certain understanding of the fact that there is this dharma, and if you choose not to follow it, then you are responsible.
Nima, this is actually directly from this verse. Is this explanation also written somewhere, just out of interest?
Yeah.
What you're explaining just now,
Yeah.
the human brain being written, is it there somewhere, like in your book or somewhere written?
It is written in Adi Shankaracharya's commentaries. So this is why that's why it's very important to
So this is a really
follow
important
the.
statement. That's just something
Yeah.
there. Is it somewhere else?
It is some, yeah. Law of dharma is talked about very extensively in the whole Indian literature. Law of dharma, right? So therefore, it is a law. It is like capturing something which is invisible that you capture. Okay, and that capturing is something that human brain is what given. So this is why what happens is, what we say, how do you know that? Okay, so we used to talk about it very in a simple manner, but now neurosciences have actually made that whole, what we are saying, what the Vedanta is saying, far more sophisticated, and I will give you a glimpse of that. Okay, so what we talked about is, we used a very simple method. What we say is, regardless of any religion, regardless of gender, every child, whether the child is in Africa or a child is in Australia, a child is in America or a small village in India, every child knows, I don't want to be hurt. And the child equally knows others don't want to be hurt. The child knows, I don't want to be lied to, and the child knows others don't want to be lied to. The child knows, I don't want to be cheated, and others don't want the same from me. Okay, so therefore that means it is something which is not a result of somebody else's input. It is natural. So that's why we human beings, the human brain is programmed to have that understanding. So that means there is a law which prevails, and we are given that understanding. It is like law of gravity is there. The monkeys, they don't go to school and study laws of gravity, but a little baby monkey will know how not to fall. When they go from one tree to the other, they don't make that mistake. There is no language, they don't go to school, but they come with that understanding. So their brains are programmed for their own survival, they are programmed to do what? Have that intuitive understanding of laws of gravity. And if we human beings are endowed with free will, we are endowed with intuitive understanding of right and wrong. Okay, so that's why following dharma for us, it's not a matter of personal choice, neither it is a social contract. It is what the inborn understanding with which we are born, and we can, it's just a matter of aligning with that understanding and honoring it, right? So now there are neurosciences, any statement, in fact when we made that statement, as Nandita says, it's a huge statement. Okay, because for most of the religions, the source of ethics is what?
Man-made contract.
It's a man-made contract, or that it's a sent, the Messiah came and whoever is telling you these are the 10 commandments, this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. For us, it's not somebody else coming and telling you what you should do. We are endowed in our brain. It's a totally different. I hope you understand the difference, because it's a huge difference. Okay, it is not an external input given. It is part of innate understanding of every human being. Okay, Now, there are neurosciences, they have done this study because it's a huge statement that we make. And last time, Saloni's, when we gave a talk at Harvard Alumni Association, Saloni's husband asked this question, so based on what do you make this statement? Okay, so now luckily the neuroscience is confirmed this. So there is a mechanism in our brain which is what we call mirror neurons. Okay, mirror neurons is a mechanism through which, for example, when you feel hurt, what is the process through which you know that you are hurt?
The brain.
Exactly. Let's say that there is a physical injury, right? So therefore something is hurt, then message is sent to your brain, right? Now the brain processes it and says, oh my God, this is what your pain centers are activated, and you say this is painful, right? Now, so that means there is a whole physical wiring which enables you to recognize your pain. And when you take painkillers, what do?
They deaden that part.
They deaden that sensing part. They don't do anything. They don't cure it at all. But they actually, that whole circuit is there, they cut it off somewhere, so therefore your brain doesn't register it and you don't actually feel the pain.
They call it painkiller.
They call it, exactly. It kills the pain by actually deactivating this wiring. It interferes with that process. Right? Now, when a child sees somebody else in pain, is that physical wiring? No.
But you can feel it.
Exactly. That is mirroring. That is called mirror neurons. Right? So that means that there is no physical wiring which is activated which makes the child feel the pain. When the child sees somebody else in pain, if the child is not damaged, the instinct is to what? Go and help. Right? So that means that there is neurologically, you feel, you're capable of feeling somebody else's pain. One is your own physical circuit, which is a pain that you feel through this mechanism. The other one is without this mechanism, you can feel somebody else's pain. This is what we call mirror neurons. I can pick up somebody else's pain and it creates what? Sensation of pain in me, even though it has got nothing to do with me. So that means that mirroring system is what is the basis of the ethics. What? I don't want to be in pain, and others what? If they are in pain, I can feel that I'm actually causing that pain. If I'm causing that pain, it causes me that pain. So I know. I know that others don't like to be in pain because that pain is painful.
You empathize.
So therefore, that becomes the source of empathy also. And all this is inbuilt in human brain. So now there are some experiments at Yale University. There are some psychiatrists, neuroscientists who've done this study. And the study is because when you make this statement, it's a huge statement that actually there is an innate understanding of pain and dharma that the child is born with. So they did a study that, at the age of 3 months, the child has no real inputs. Right? Nobody has taught the child how to behave because the child is too young. 3 months means the child doesn't know anything. Right? So therefore, there was an experiment done at Yale University where this neuroscientist put a 3-month-old child who has not received any external inputs, no external inputs. Right? By the time you are 1 or 2, you can say that some input has come. Now, showed the little child 2 puppets. In one puppet, there was this person there was one child who was eating something, right? And then there was this another puppet who was what? Helping the child to eat. So that means there were 2 characters. one was eating and the other one was doing what? Helping the child, right? So that was one scenario, scenario number one. Then there was a second scenario. In that scenario, there were two characters. One was eating and the other one was snatching it away. Right? So that means that other person's behavior was disruptive. And the child, a 3-month-old child, was looking at this one first, that one first, and then what? Both together. First the child was made to see one, then the child was made to see the other, and then two simultaneously. On one side, two characters were behaving, one helping the other, and on the other side, one was disruptive. Now, the 3-month-old child is unable to speak, unable to say what one prefers. So the way that they decide that what the child is naturally inclined towards is through where the child looks more. So the child was looking at which one more? Cooperation, much more, much longer gaze. Across culture, across gender, and it was almost like 99% observations, it was like that. So that means a 3-month-old child that you think is just a blob doesn't know anything. They know. It is inborn. This is how more and more what Vedanta has been saying, everything, it is incredible. Quantum physics converges, neurosciences converge, cognitive psychology converges. Not only everything converges, but Vedanta has value added. They add some value to whatever is known by them. That's why they look to Vedanta with a lot of admiration.
So they validate it.
So they validate it.
So they recognize that the
So they
Vedas
recognize.
are the source.
Yeah. I mean of course. But the thing is that it is innate, is something which is that what Veda says is valid. The latest discoveries show that. Okay. So therefore, the statements that we made now can be substantiated through a lot of this empirical research. Empirical research at a very high level. It's not just some simple person doing whatever. Okay? So therefore, there is an innate sense. Now, if there is an innate sense, then everybody should be behaving honoring that innate sense. But we don't always do it. So now, what is the cause? If everybody is born,
Experiences along the way.
if everybody is born with the understanding of that I don't want to be hurt, others don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be lied to, others don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be cheated, others don't want to be. I don't want people to be jealous towards me, others also want me not to be jealous towards them. All this is something that we all understand. It's part of human program, human brain program. But does it mean that we all behave like that? No.
You feel there's something to gain by not behaving.
Exactly. So that means what happens is, in spite of that knowledge, when we use our free will, please understand, kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyatha va kartum shakyam. When we make that choice, right, we at times don't pay attention to what the message that is given to us by our brain. Right? You always know it. Absolutely. You always know it, and you use your free will to what? Not pay attention to it. Because why do you not pay attention to it? Because there is some other interest which is governing your actions. Okay? And that interest is your defined self-interest. When you feel that there is your self-interest in that given situation is going against those values, then you will make a decision where what your personally defined self-interest will what guide your decision. So, let's say that let's say you are working and you want a promotion, right? So therefore, and there is nothing wrong in having promotion, or you are working and you want profit. There is nothing wrong in being successful and having profit, okay? But how do you gain profit? That you have a choice. You can work hard, you can sell good quality products, and you can get the profit. There is nothing wrong with it, right? But you can also make what? Lot of profit by not paying taxes, right? So that means your profit making is not a problem, please understand. But how you make that profit is something which is very important. Okay? Either you can follow dharma or you can not follow dharma. Now, when you make that choice of not paying enough taxes, what is going on in your mind?
The cost of others you've done.
But if you no, why should you even make that choice of not paying enough taxes and getting more for you? Why? Exactly, right? The criteria for the choice is what? You gain more. When you say I gain more, I know with that extra money that I have, what am I going to accomplish? What am I going to accomplish? Now I have one car, I can buy a BMW, right? Now I can buy one more apartment in Alibag, house in Alibag. I can do this. I can send my kids to school. So that means you know very well what you can do with that extra money that you have. And everything sounds very attractive, right? But if I say, okay, now I have to follow this little ethic, which is the innate understanding that I have, then what is your gain? You have paid taxes. What is your gain?
It's more towards society and for the peace of mind.
Okay, now there is a choice of an evolved person. A normal person sees, why does the person make the choice of evading taxes is because the person sees no gain. I said, I'll have to pay all this money and I won't have what? Enough to do all these different things that otherwise I could have done. So now, does it mean that the person doesn't know that it is a wrong thing to do? The person knows it. In spite of knowing it, what is the criteria for that decision making? It's a personal gain. So as long as the person continues to see the situation where the person in one's own assessment sees personal gain in what? Sacrificing the value, the person will make a choice which is what? Sometimes going against those values. Because in the assessment of the person, there is more gain in not following the value. And following value has no gain. Now, if you want to make the person make a different choice, what is needed?
You have to show him the gain.
Exactly. Because if you keep on telling the person, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, the person knows it. And the person's criteria for decision making is different. So therefore the person is not going to change. But if you show, as Saloni says, the gain in following value, then the person will assess the whole situation differently. So the only way to talk about values is not to tell people you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. Why? Because people already know it. Human being is born with that understanding. So when you talk about values, if you really want to influence the behavior of the person, you have to talk about value of values. What is a value of a value? Is make the person understand what does one gain by following the value and what does one lose by not following the value. Only when the person understands that, person follows value not for the sake of anybody else but for one's own sake, then we can say the values are well integrated. As long as you think that you are following values for somebody else's sake, for your parents, for your teachers, to please your teachers, to please your parents, to please the society, to please your religion, time is not far that you will
Start resenting.
exactly. But if you're doing it for yourself, for your own gain, who doesn't want one's own gain? Everybody is interested in one's own gain.
That's when you understand it.
Exactly. So therefore, now we need to recognize what do I lose when I don't follow the values. Okay. So therefore, this is where this action and result, there is a law. Law of dharma is connected to law of karma. Okay. So that means if you go against that understanding that you are given, there is a cost. And that cost are in two categories. One is what we say the seen result, drishta phalam, and the other one is adrushta phalam. Adrushta phalam is unseen result. Okay. What is the drishta phalam? The minute you go against dharma, there is a seen result. What is the seen result? You have acted against something that you know is the right thing to do. So when you have acted against something that you know is the right thing to do, it brings about this feeling of guilt. It is unavoidable. Okay, so therefore our Upanishads, they say every human being is suffering from guilt. Guilt is kim aham sadhuna karavam, kim aham papam akaravam iti. What I should have done, I did not do, and what I should not have done, I did it. Kim aham sadhu na akaravam, kim aham papam akaravam iti. Iti is thus. Two kinds of things. Why did I not do the thing that I had to do? Why did I do something which I should not have done? Wrong choices, wrong use of free will. Inappropriate use of free will creates guilt. This is a natural mechanism to make you see, hey, there is a cost. Just as you are given the understanding of free will, the understanding of dharma, you are also given instant feedback when you go against that dharma in form of guilt. That is also from the nature, from the laws of karma.
Action will lead to reaction.
Yeah. Now, that guilt is something which you can always, we human beings are so clever. We always find to dodge our emotions or feelings.
Make some excuse or justify.
Exactly. The minute you say, that there is this feeling of guilt, then, you don't even need to explain anything to anyone if you had no guilt. The very fact that you start explaining to somebody, saying that, this government is so corrupt.
Or even explaining to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. to either yourself or to somebody else by saying, you know, as it is, they don't use the tax money properly. Everybody else is doing it. If I don't do it, I'll get nowhere in my life. That means you're feeling guilty. Because there is no need for, if you did not know it's inappropriate, you don't need to justify. The very fact that you're justifying to others and to yourself means that you're feeling guilty. Okay? So therefore, the first defense mechanism that we have towards our own feeling of guilt is justification. To somehow make us feel better about our choices and make ourselves believe that we didn't do anything wrong, when actually we know that we did something wrong. Okay. We also do some things where we go and we divert our attention. I'm feeling guilty, uncomfortable, let me go out, go for a movie, be with friends where I talk about other things. That means this is what avoiding to feel guilty. Or that's why, in fact, it's interesting, most of our entertainment is what? Getting drunk and what? Forgetting all the things that we have, that we are carrying in our mind, is real escapes.
Actually, a lot of
Exactly. So now I have a
Bollywood movies are for escapism.
yeah, exactly. So that means you can't stay with, you know, you can't face yourself. So you constantly have to divert your attention somewhere else. Yeah. Okay. So therefore, but does it work? For a short span of time, it keeps on lingering in form of some discomfort. Even though you may not constantly actively remember that guilt or anything, there is some discomfort. And you can see, one of the things that my teacher used to say, that the minute the person walks in to see me, I see the person's eyes and I can tell how the person is.
If you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll be able to
You can tell. He says the person who's not able to look into my eyes just like this, like that, like, you know, that uncomfortable feeling that one has with oneself is something which is actually, it's a giveaway. If you are a little sensitive, you can see it. You can see through a person. Okay? So therefore, your facial expressions, your body language, everything gives it away. Okay? So therefore, how nervous you are, how uncomfortable you are with yourself, everything shows. Okay? So therefore, these are some things which linger on. Okay? Now, the second thing is, along with guilt, there is fear. What if I am found out? Now you have all these income tax people coming and searching your this thing and whatever 10 years after. So that means 1 year you got away doesn't mean that you'll get away the next year. So then what happens? That there is, along with guilt, there is fear. These are all the cost of going against universal values. Constant fear. So these are all seen result. Fear is something that you feel, so it's a seen result. Okay? So that means guilt, fear. Then the third thing is, when you go against what you know is the right thing to do, you fall in your own self-esteem. Okay? Lack of self-esteem. That I can't do things right. Okay? So therefore, the cost of going against values is huge cost. It's intangible. So that means that when the person is driving BMW, when the person has a house in some fancy place, Lonavala or wherever, Okay, and when the person is sending the kids to school in some fancy schools, you feel the person is getting away with not following the values. Because how do you assess? Seen results, which are very, which are not exactly, which are external. But you don't see the seen results, which are what going on in their own brain.
How do people live their whole lives like that?
Absolutely. So that means the whole, absolutely, the whole life. Then you can actually, as a Vedanta teacher, Mitali, you won't believe the kind of mess people are in their life. I mean, sometimes you just like, oh my God, what kind of life is this? Totally entangled. And when you see the person, you can never imagine.
Yet they continue to live like that.
Yet they continue because they can't get. That's why you need wisdom.
And sometimes you get into a spiral also.
Exactly.
Sometimes you don't know how to get out.
And then sometimes it's like, I'm feeling uncomfortable, let me go and buy some diamonds. You know, and I feel good. This kicks that or buy this nice, and go to Sapna and buy some fancy jewelry.
That works for some people.
Retail therapy.
Right? Or buy some fancy clothes, or just buy, go for. And this is how we constantly have created those small escapes, and we continue to live in those escapes.
Even there's a question coming in my mind, but I don't know if you will touch upon it later. Like, for two different people, when they hold this sense of values is different, why is that difference there? Like, why is somebody able to, do more wrong and keep hiding the guilt, and another person who will live their life completely with the laws of dharma and not, break out of that mode? Why is that difference? Is it the way they've been brought up, or?
No, this is what I said. The more you see, the more, in fact, the certain value education and the way they are taught, by their parents. Parents play a very big role.
Is a very big role.
That plays a very big role.
That you live in also.
Exactly. So there are some external factors, but there are certain things which this instinct that you have, right? Either something that external environment nurtures it, or it exactly it confuses the child.
Because you're born with the same.
You're born with
thing,
it,
and then you
but the external environment can be either conducive, or it could be, and that's why when you expose yourself to this knowledge, what happens? That innate sense that you have, which is already there, it gets what? Heightened.
But some people actually believe they are doing the right thing by doing certain actions which are completely contrary to.
Yeah, but
Yeah, so that's why,
I'm
see,
not talking of tangible things like profit and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
like entire ideologies like
Yes.
you have now coming up, they actually believe.
And maybe on the face of it they believe, inside they must be also having the guilt. Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
See, the more they want to convince you, the more they are not so sure.
But that living on the surface,
Yeah, exactly.
But it can come out like an example of one child in one of our schools. She literally said, I come from a very bad community. I can choose to follow what the rest of the community does, but because of what I'm now learning in the
condition.
Teach for India school, I am using my free will to choose to do differently. And she literally used these words. Really. So
Wow.
now I'm choosing to get educated and get a job and not follow the rest of my community. So inherently the child has the laws of dharma, but because they're living in a community where they're basically thugs, they're not even get
So they get influenced.
so easily
Influenced.
see the difference between them and their siblings or friends from the same community who are not coming to them. So you can see the different paths they're taking very clearly.
And sometimes even though she may have,
parents.
sometimes even though she may have known that it's not the right thing, she's in that environment because she's been given an opportunity to see differently.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe the soul has been evolved earlier incarnations, so that has a bearing in the present.
Yeah, that is the one thing. But see, right now that also cannot become an excuse. Oh, I've become because that opportunity to evolve is right now, right? And that's, as she says, maybe because of some karma you're born in those communities, but you still can change, right? You can evolve. There is no human being who really wants to evolve is denied that opportunity. Really.
Because you send out that
Yeah,
message to universe,
absolutely.
that
You
help.
get the help, right? So that because you have a certain setback, and all of us have some setback in one way or the other, in one area or the other. So the thing is not to kind of say, okay, now this is something which is my karma, and not like that. You have to work on it, and it will change.
Be passive.
Yeah, you can't be passive, right? So therefore this feeling that low self-esteem, in fact sometimes the low self-esteem is what comes out not as low self-esteem. How does it come out? You show yourself as very strong, and exactly, right? You want to bully others. I mean, it comes out in all very funny. You want to show that you're very strong, okay? But actually inside you're all confused and a very weak human being, okay? And it is something which is amazing, because as I told you in this I think in this class, that when I was at the UN, I was looking at the statistics for violence against women, and the statistics are appalling. There is a huge, the women are subject to, the violence itself is divided into 3 categories. One is the physical violence, the second is verbal violence, and the third is mental violence. And it is nothing to do, because we thought that it was to do with whether the country is developing country or developed country. It is with reference to social strata of the society and education. It has got nothing to do with that.
It is the collective
In the
conscious-
most affluent societies, there is violence against women. Mental violence means that, yeah,
No,
that,
mentally abused, like
yeah, you know, you
demoralized.
see, for example, yeah, yeah, there is another way. For example, the mental violence could also be, let's say, that verbally you're not saying anything, physically you're not doing anything, but you have an affair with somebody else. That's a mental violence, because you're not verbalizing it. You're not, but you're being devious and you're doing things which are hurtful. Okay, so therefore,
This has always been my very big question in my mind. This is not something that is new or in the centuries. It has been going on
yes,
from eternal. From
Absolutely.
right from the beginning.
absolutely,
Why, like even Draupadi,
yeah,
when she was, disrobed, then Krishna only sent her protection by sending her an eternal star. But then Krishna as a god, or whoever god, must know that it is going to be an eternal problem. So why has he made this?
So first of all, I think we need to, now the way you're talking, it seems as though Krishna is one person out there. He is looking now. So that means you have to understand, you have to, now Gita will talk about what is Ishvara. And we have to,
She was made to accept that.
okay, it is like
Whether he
asking,
has it or not.
yeah, it is like asking that this law of gravity is there and people are falling, so stop law of gravity.
But law of gravity has a meaning.
Exactly, even this, that's why dharma has a meaning. That means that when you choose to do something against dharma, there is a cost. And the whole purpose of that that karma is to make you see you're not aligned. Right? You have a choice, you can go very far away, not following dharma, but what? Every story has what? That when you go, you can get away. It seems like you can get away, you can get away, you can get away. Ultimately what? You have to pay for it. So that means
Acts that happen, like so many acts happen against dharma. The law of dharma exists.
Exactly.
Act against dharma.
Absolutely.
And acts exist in all spheres, so many other things.
Absolutely.
No, but God has not.
Let's not talk about 1 second, because God means who is God. I'll ask you, who is this God? What is God? Right? So God is something that you have to understand. The law of dharma is one of the manifestation of Ishvara. You have to re-understand Ishvara. As long as you think Ishvara is one person out there who's created this whole universe, that is not at all what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. Okay, so that means a human being is born, it's like tree. Law of dharma is like tree. If you use your free will and rub against it, who gets rubbed? You get rubbed. Can you hold tree responsible? Tree is just standing there, not doing anything. Okay, so that means you have to learn what? To not go there and rub against it. So that means anybody can do. This is why you have a free will to do it, anything, not to do it, and to do it differently. You can use it the way you want. And sometimes you go against this understanding because you think that you are going to gain. Through this class, what do you learn? You may think that you gain, but actually you end up losing. You lose.
How would you correlate it to this situation for women?
Yeah.
You are going
So
through
now,
where there is a mental balance, you can't isolate yourself from the situation.
no, what I want to say is the fact that violence happens, right? Not because people are bad, right? But it's something that there is some confusion, there is some pressures that the person has are not handled. Okay, so therefore, for example, I have had a trauma in whatever my childhood, which is making me very angry, let's say. Okay, now the external situation that I am today, something triggers something, and what happens? You correlate it to that problem in childhood, and you get really angry with this person who is in front of you, and that will go on happening. It will go on happening till the time you recognize. Absolutely. Until the time that you deal with your problem. Otherwise it will keep happening. So whole life, look upon it as learning. So either you continue this problem, or you can what? Reform yourself. The more you understand about what is the cost, the more you will what? Attempt to align with the laws. And for whom? For your own self. This is.
Woman protects herself. She has always been violated in all three ways eternally.
No. See, this is what when you generalize and make everything non-changeable, it is impossible. You have one given situation. One human being is in front of you. Whoever that your husband or whoever it is. Right? Now, at the very early stage of that relationship, you have a choice. Most of the time I have seen that women don't say anything towards the early stage of relationship. They let go. When you let go, what are you doing?
So entangling yourself in a ring. Yes.
Absolutely. You are really, you are.
know it, that's why you're doing it after. I mean,
So exactly.
How do you can't undo that.
Absolutely. So you cannot see the thing is some you become an accomplice. It's nothing to do with Indians and all. Even in the US, I have seen these girls and all. When I had gone to study, right? They go for at very young age they start dating and they have boyfriends and this and that, and they go through so much mental trauma that they went and the guy was looking somewhere else, and she's crying and she is an emotional wreck, but she can't face him and she can't say this is not acceptable to me. So they go through this whole thing. Now if they don't put a stop, they always have a choice. When you don't put a stop and then you call yourself a victim, this is all confusion.
But woman looks for security.
So woman is something.
That's
1 minute.
also hiding behind something actually.
But you can't get away from certain.
See, all these are wrong. Please understand that when you have to make a decision, you can't make this women are like that and women are like that, so we have to let go. Then this is your framework, and then you have to deal with that situation from that framework, because you are refusing to come out of that framework.
Sometimes you can't retaliate here. So
This
But it's always a choice.
exactly,
You're choosing
absolutely.
to stay for a particular
Zin.
reason. For the kids,
Absolutely.
Or whatever it is. You're choosing, you evaluate the options and you're choosing one, maybe for the right reason, maybe for the wrong
It is
reason.
a-
But it's a choice. That
But
you're
that's where it comes in
Both
assessing the situation and then doing it for, the situation can change. So for a period in time, you assess the situation, take that decision. Situation will change the next day, you assess it again, change it.
Absolutely. See, the thing is that these are very self-defeating ideas. The minute you say all women have to, and actually at a very young age, women are given these messages.
yes, definitely.
They're almost conditioned to think that you have to be submissive, that you have to let go, and it's done in a very subtle way, So, see, when I'm talking about when you're dating with somebody, I'm not talking about financially dependent, because when you're dating, it's got nothing to do with all of that. It's to do with your own self-esteem.
And the conditioning comes in so many ways. Sometimes you may see your mother being traumatized, or you may see and just keeping quiet and not dealing with it, and then you're being conditioned because that's your role
That's the
model.
biggest condition.
That's the biggest conditioning, because you see that and then there is no resistance, right?
You think that's right.
But sometimes, see, when I say that you can consciously choose, but then it has to be an intelligent choice. But if you stay in that, it should not be passivity. Passive acceptance.
You're making an assessment of the situation and you're making a choice between certain options. And
Exactly.
But it is a choice you're making.
Absolutely.
Right reason, wrong reason.
Absolutely.
It's still a choice.
It's a choice, right? Don't blame somebody else.
But Auntie, even choosing to stay in it for security is a choice you're making, because that security, your
Yes.
need for security
Chosen that
is
more than-
greater than your whatever it is.
So
that
then when you stay with, you can't be disgruntled because you made
You made
that
it.
subconscious choice even if it
Exactly.
is. Without realizing I'm in it for the
But
security.
sometimes you may be there karmically to learn certain lessons. You don't know your soul connection or whatever. So maybe
Yeah,
you
so
have to
exactly.
wait.
So that means that then you have to learn. So unless if you don't learn, and if you just say now this is how things are, you repeat. You go on repeating.
Somehow I recently was just thinking about it and I don't know if I'm right, but I'm with this person to learn a lesson and I'm with that person and lately this has come to me. And I kind of just got another feeling that I think I'm the only one who creates my learning experiences by the choices I make. Because
Wonderful.
there may be anyone in my life, but the way I receive and respond things, it's me who is in charge of my karma, not anyone out
Yeah,
there.
we are the authors
Right?
of our rewards and punishments.
No, that's not what you're saying, right?
You can choose how to react.
No, what I'm saying
You
is
can
that,
choose what to learn,
maybe
how
I'm
to
in,
learn.
some people say maybe I'm in this because I have to learn a lesson and I have to learn it, I'm not learning the lesson. But
Yeah, I think what
this person is in my life.
But you're not created that
I don't
situation
know.
on your own.
Yeah, so a
We
lot
have
of
to
it
make
we
the
created
choices.
without even realizing through our actions of the past or whatever, you know.
And my choices have made me learn this lesson today.
Yeah, exactly. See, the thing is that you don't never know whether it is some karma or no karma or whatever. At present, you are faced with this situation. You have a choice. Not to do it, and do it differently. Okay? Now, in all this that you have to make a choice right now, you can bring billions of information which are not relevant at all. Okay? And then your whole decision making is all confused because you bring all these billions of information which is not connected to what you have to do. Okay? So therefore that sanity comes from what? All women is not your problem, right? Right now this person is in front of me and what are the options I have is your problem. Okay? So when we were doing, I don't know if any one of you have done GMAT. Have you done GMAT? You've done? Okay. In this, how many years? There was one portion of the test which was a very interesting. I don't know if you did it or not. I loved it. Okay, they give you like one whole scenario. In that scenario, there is a lot of information. Okay. Now you have to identify what is the goal, what are the variables that actually are the most important variables, right, to accomplish what you want to accomplish, what are the minor secondary variables, right, which are not the immediate variables but secondary variables, and what is this information which is totally not relevant to that situation. In our mind, everything is jumbled. There is nothing, we are not clear about what is it that I want to accomplish, what are the factors which I can immediately change and influence to get what I want, what are the secondary factors which will help me to, accomplish but not directly, and what is this other irrelevant information that I have which has got nothing to do with this situation. My problem here is not connected to Draupadi's problem. If I keep on connecting that, how will it give me any indication as to what I should do now? If I keep on bringing all these billions of characters and why they have done what they have done, how will it help me to make my choices correctly? Tell me that. This is called using information totally inappropriately. And our minds are like that. Lots of information we have gathered and we have no clarity. And we bring all different information which has got nothing to do with situation and it has no relevance to what I should do now. X and Y and Z doesn't mean I have to do it. We are like sheeps. Okay? And then we have all kinds of things to just, not do things correctly. Clarity means you bring the relevant information to that given situation and see what you can do. And even within that situation, there are things that you can't change. Forget about them for now. But there are certain things that you can change and concentrate on that. Otherwise, the situation is just playing in your mind round and round and round, and you can't neither solve it, nor you can get out of it, and you're emotionally caught with it. And this is how we live our lives. Okay, the whole purpose of Gita is to avoid doing it, to lift you and give you clarity, to live and say, okay, now today I have this situation in front of me. Now there is this character in front of me. What are the facts? What are my own additions? What is my view of myself which is making me either not do what I need to do, what is my responsibility. All this assessment we don't do only.
Basically, we need clarity to use our free will effectively.
Absolutely. You need clarity to use your free will. All these billions of people and this in that, it is not going to help you. It will only confuse you.
You know, in that scenario that you were just talking about, that GMAT scenario can
Yes.
apply to any life. So one was, what is your goal, which often we don't know.
Which often we don't know.
Then, what are the primary variables you said? What are the secondary
The variables.
What are irrelevant?
Yeah.
But is there also one way you say, what is it, should you be able to identify from the scenario, what is it that you cannot influence? Or what is out of your control? Or
So this
does
is why that
not exist?
irrelevant information in that sense is that when they give you that irrelevant information, actually they don't give you totally irrelevant information. They something that you have absolutely no control, which is not going to help you in solving this
So
situation.
it could help you if you could control it.
Yeah, but you don't
need
have
to
any control.
identify that you cannot control.
Control.
It, right?
That they don't give. That they don't give. That they don't give. But in life, this is so important. Use this GMAT thing is a very important thing. Because our minds are all having too much information and no clarity. And we entangle everything. And from that entanglement, we are helpless. We create a scenario of helplessness for ourselves. And then we complain. And then we blame. Absolutely. Okay. Then we say, oh, then as Shona very rightly said, you know, this karma means karma becomes, oh yeah, there is a person who gave a presentation on karma, and it is appalling. It's like, yeah, if the person is doing something to you, it is you're paying for something that you have done in the past, so let it be even more. What is this? Then I'll finish it off quickly. That's being stupid. If somebody is abusing, oh, it must be some past thing, let him abuse even more, so I'll finish it off. That is a dangerous position to get into.
People can exploit that.
Yeah, completely.
Like you said in one class, you're creating more karma by not aligning with the law of dharma to change.
Yeah.
Because it's wrong to be abused.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're creating worse dharma for yourself.
Absolutely.
Not living with the dharma that you should be living.
Right? So I just finished this little story about these American women, and then they you know, but that whole thing of keeping my boyfriend is so high. I was appalled to see how insecure they are. Right? So that means any behavior is something which is acceptable as long as that person stays with me. I said, why do you want to stay with this person if that person is not decent enough to give you some respect? What is your need?
And this is before you started studying.
Yeah.
You told her that?
Yeah.
What is the reaction?
Yeah. I said, you know, you have to have a good self-esteem where you say that if this person is like that, you don't deserve me. I don't want to be with you. Go. That you must have that self-esteem. So that's why the problem is in your self-esteem, and it is seen what if you let the person walk over your self-esteem and be passive, then after 5 years you end up in a dysfunctional relationship. Whose fault? Who has the responsibility? You also have the responsibility. Don't then only say the person is so insensitive and the person is like that and person is like that. You have also created that monster.
Nima, then how does one get out of that?
Now then, just as
Yeah,
now,
that is more important.
now you become,
Create the self-esteem.
yeah, so that,
I mean, should the parent have helped in that?
You keep
Should the
talking.
child
So-
be responsible?
I think that
so
helps.
creating self-esteem, you have to study Gita. The values.
No, but I think knowing it and actually doing that, imbibing that, using all this to do it on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Is hard.
It is hard, but you have to, there is no shortcut. It is, you know, like Shikha, imagine, right? You have 2 ropes and you tie one knot. Then you tie another knot. and then you tie another knot, and 15 years you keep on tying. Then if I ask you to unknot it, is it going to happen overnight?
No, it's a persistence.
It's understanding what is Ishvara and then
Slowly,
one by
one by
putting
one.
everything
But
into
it's
the
not,
right
but it's not impossible.
It is not impossible. The human growth is,
Because that is what we are.
if you don't do anything to actually grow as a human being, you are going on tying one more knot. Then at one point in your life, you have to begin the process of untying.
And this is one step as how. This is one step to untying the knot
Exactly, by coming here. Absolutely.
Actually
Yeah,
wanting to be.
wanting to be.
listening to it.
Absolutely.
But it leads to friction also many times. How to avoid that?
So that friction is something that is unavoidable, right? So that means that the minute you say something little unpleasant, right, to somebody, it is going to be not comfortable, right? It is not going to be comfortable. But by not saying it, you escalate it. That conflict will be. You think you are avoiding much bigger, and this is exactly the whole thing of what Arjuna, Pandavas, and the whole thing, right? They let go, they wanted to avoid conflict, What happened? Big war of Mahabharata. They didn't do anything. Did you think that they avoid? It actually became much more.
Yeah, they were abused as children.
Yeah, exactly. So they never actually put their foot down, right? So that's why it is human growth means you have to understand I have free will. Don't get into this helpless scenario which is created by you and not do what needs to be done and then view yourself as a victim of somebody else's doing. This is a very common scenario everybody gets into, and this is the most unhealthy scenario.
And it goes for the kids because they also see that.
Absolutely. It is what we call passive aggressive. You're passive, you're not doing enough, but at the same time, what? All this resentment that you are, it's building up and it is destroying you.
But you have to come to yourself from a certain sense of value and being conscious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that means absolutely, values means what? You also cannot let others abuse you. That is also a value.
It's like an Aishwarya Rai ad in the Hollywood, like because I want it. I wish that it was in French because it's the reference to cosmetics, forget that. But it's a sentence.
Yeah, because I'm worth it. Exactly. That it is a lot of times it is a self-esteem issue. You know, people. I mean, it's sometimes it's women I talk, and I was like, yeah, if I say something, then he'll walk out. So I said, yeah, let him walk out. So why do you want to? Why do you want? And then you kind of imagine as though every time you say something, the person will just. You think anybody is like that will just walk out?
No, he walks out. What he sends her out there.
You know, nobody is so unreasonable.
That's it as a woman, it's not.
And like you said, it's not always 0 or 100. That either
Absolutely.
you leave or what about those choices in
Absolutely.
between? You at least start,
You
asserting
start.
yourself,
Absolutely.
and for yourself in the household. Or
Absolutely, right? We, in a whole mind that we have created 0-100 scenario, which itself is such an inaccurate scenario, right? Because between 0 and 100 there are what? How many numbers? 99 numbers which we ignore. That we ignore, right? So that means that using of free will intelligently is something which is an extremely important topic, because you can use everything that you have learnt in Gita, Dharma, Karma all wrongly to justify what? Your inactivity. Karma.
Or your own activity.
Exactly.
No, but that is passivity. But one can always.
So this is why, or that what can you do in that given situation? What is relevant in this situation? Okay, and constantly doing things differently, even if it is tiny bit differently, you have to do it differently. If you are in an unhealthy situation, tiny bit, you can't change everything from what that's so-called perfect. May not be possible right now. The way things are, it may not be possible, but you can always make that one little step ahead, and you have to try.
She made her.
Yeah, she talked. She was very, she asked, first of all, she asked for help. Exactly. And she actually, initially she started what, defending herself. She asked the kings that question. She says, who did Yudhishthira lose first? Himself or me? He said he lost himself first. If he lost himself first, he is no longer a king. He is a slave. A slave cannot bet somebody else's life. So she,
And he's not in the game then.
exactly, he's not in a. So therefore she did what she had to do, where what? She spoke up in her self-defense. She was not a meek lady. Secondly, when that did not work, what? She asked for help. Do that in your life.
Yeah, this book
She was very
ascetic.
ascetic.
They showed the Mahabharata through Draupadi's eyes.
Yeah.
It's an eye-opener.
You know, I'll tell you one thing. We always say women are abused, all that. Actually, sometimes even men are abused. Women can be very conniving in the way that they behave and manipulate it to, you know, and then men are stronger or they have the finance or whatever, and then the woman feels abused. So, you know, what has
Yeah.
to be very clever in the way you actually think in your conduct
That's what she's
is
saying,
what
choices
is,
and all.
what is creating what situation. That why is the man reacting like this, or why am I behaving like this, or why is he behaving like that? You know?
This is a very nice thing, and I will end the class. What? It's way beyond the class time. Okay, sorry. Should I say this or I'll say it the next time? Okay. Now what Shona is saying is something which is very important point, which I saw that at the UN in New York. So we had a lot of meetings, right? And in those meetings, many times, this is like in early 90s, so it's long. So long ago, women will not talk enough, okay, in those meetings. And after the meeting was over, they would all complain that, oh, we were not given opportunity to talk. So I used to always like, but who told you not to talk? It's you, because of your own lack of self-esteem, you don't talk. But how do you perceive it? What? As a persecution from men that they were not allowed to talk. So that means we constantly distort. Yeah. So
Inadvertently or
yeah.
without
That's so true.
Exactly. So therefore, living with that amount of objectivity is something which is extremely important, because you can create scenarios which are not accurate. Right? You feel like a victim when actually nothing has happened. Okay. So therefore, that use of free will, if you can master it, I tell you, it is half your life is made so much more simple, so much more effective.
On that, I just wanted to say on a lighter note, my husband sent me this one thing yesterday which said all women need to be married because you need someone to blame for everything that goes wrong. That was quite funny.
Yeah. So
It's nice.
Right?
Very enlightening.
yeah. So that's free will. Now we will look little bit more into dharma and the intricacies of dharma in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.